You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313, and on today's episode, the NBA season tipped off last night, but for the Cavs, Kings, and Pistons, it all starts tonight, baby, as the Pistons travel to Miami to take on the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat. The Cavs travel to Brooklyn to take on the Cavaliers, and the Kings travel to Utah to take on the Jazz. We're going to preview all three of the matchups, as well as my predictions on where the Cavs, Kings, and the Pistons will go beyond the regular season. That's all coming up today on Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313. Let's fucking go! And now, ladies and gentlemen, in the place to be, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Pistons from the D. This is Let 'Em Know Kings in the 3-1-3. What up, and welcome to another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313, your post-game reaction podcast to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Detroit Pistons. In case you didn't hear my energy from earlier, we are back in this biatch like we never left. I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show, the first edition of Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313 for the 2023-2024 season. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Radio Public, and wherever you listen to this show. Go to anchor.fm/CLESK313 or download the Spotify for Podcasters app on your iTunes and Google Play stores so you know when the next episode drops. Give the show a follow on those platforms, please, and turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode of Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313, which will drop tomorrow, recapping the season opening games for the Cavs, Kings, and Pistons. By the way, if you could please rate and spread the word out to your friends and give Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313 a 5-star review, I would greatly appreciate you, and excuse the energy that I am coming with today. The NBA is back, and I am all here for it. For all my new listeners of Let 'Em Know Kings of the 313, first of all, welcome to the show. Once again, I am your host, Skylar Weisberg. I've been a Cleveland Cavaliers fan since the 2022-23 season. I remember the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know, the LeBron James, when he first came to Cleveland. He was an absolute beast, an absolute monster for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers only won one NBA title in 2016. That was the greatest Cavaliers team in franchise history. They had all-stars like Kyrie Irving, J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson, who is back in the Cleveland Cavaliers this year. I'm going to explain that later. Kevin Love, LeBron James. They had a coach named Tyronn Lue, who was the best coach in Cleveland Cavaliers history. And now Cleveland has to deal with Mr. Complacent, J.B. Bickerstaff, but I'm going to get into him later because I have a lot to say regarding J.B. Bickerstaff this season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. As for the Sacramento Kings, I love what Mike Brown is doing with that franchise. He is the reigning, defending, undisputed, unanimous coach of the year in the NBA. They have the best offense in the entire NBA last season. They expect the Sacramento Kings to run it back, and everybody and their mama almost got back. They also got JaVale McGee that can really help the Sacramento Kings on the defensive side of the ball. And Sasha Vezenkov, look, I'm impressive about what this kid did, but I need to see him prove it during the regular season. I don't know if he is on the roster because I think the Sacramento Kings roster did not drop. I know the Pistons and the Cavaliers roster dropped, but I don't know about the Detroit I don't know about the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to have to double check on that. And the Detroit Pistons, they're my childhood team, y'all. Funny story, in case you didn't tune into the last episode that I did, I think back on September or during the summer when the NBA schedule was released, I had to deal with a couple of surgeries in my legs in my life. And for those of you that may not know, one of the teams that I got hooked on is the Detroit Pistons. Because that team had studs on defense and studs on offense. Chauncey Big Shot Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, my guy Ben Wallace on that team, and that team was the going to work Pistons, and that inspired me to fall in love in the game of basketball and the Detroit Pistons all together. Now there's another team that I am following, and I'm not going to cover on that show, and that is on this show, and that is the Chicago Bulls. Why? Because Michael Jordan's better than LeBron. Stop that talking. I know people ain't talking about LeBron James being the better player than Michael Jordan. Stop it. Stop it. Michael Jordan will always be better than LeBron James, and I'm going to end it at that. But we are not here to talk about the Chicago Bulls, which are taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. We are here to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Detroit Pistons. That is right. NBA basketball is back on your television screens, and we are all here for it. Of course, the NBA season tipped off yesterday. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets, the reigning defending undisputed NBA champions, taking out the Los Angeles Lakers by a final score of 119-107. By the way, shout out to the crowd at Ball Arena for chanting "Who's your daddy?" on LeBron James and the LA Lakers. Michael Malone, your claim of being the Lakers' daddy is absolutely on point, and I expect the Denver Nuggets to not only win the West, but I'm telling you right now, bro, nothing against my Sacramento Kings, but I expect the Denver Nuggets to repeat as NBA champions. They are monsters, and they are tough to deal with, especially with Jamal Murray and the greatest player in the world today, Nikola the Joker Jokic. I mean, he's going to win a 3-time MVP, right? I think in my prediction, he is going to be the reigning, defending, undisputed, unanimous MVP, Nikola Jokic, this season. And by the way, shout out to the Phoenix Suns for beating Golden State 108-104 in one of the most crazy games of the opening day calendar. I know it was only 2 games on opening night, but the ending was crazy. Devin Booker went absolutely off. Kevin Durant was doing his thing. Steph Curry was doing his thing. Chris Paul getting 14 points, but the Phoenix Suns, look out for them. Look out for Phoenix. They might be contenders in the near future. But we are going to talk about our teams and our games today. I want to start off with the reigning, defending Eastern Conference champions, Miami Heat, who are 9-point favorites in Miami tonight, taking on the Detroit Pistons. And last year, the Miami Heat finished 44-38 overall, 24-28 in the Eastern Conference, and 27-14 at home during last season. The Heat shot 46% from the field and 34.5% from three-point range last season. Now, nothing against the Miami Heat, but y'all, can you just stop? Can you just, calm down for a second? Ain't nobody want to hear the fact that you want to trade for James Harden, you want to trade for Jrue Holiday, you want to trade for Damian Lillard. Guess what? You got none of them. You got none of those guys, because Damian Lillard, Dame Dollar, Dame Tom went to Milwaukee. Jrue Holiday, I believe, went to Boston. And as of this recording, James Harden says, I don't even give a shit about the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't give no fuck about Philadelphia. So, as far as I'm concerned, Miami Heat, why don't you stop with this, superstar trade ego shit? Just stop, okay? Just literally stop. You're making me sick to my stomach even talking about you guys. But it's not about y'all. It's about the Detroit Pistons, who finished 17-65 last season, the worst record in the NBA. I don't give a damn about the San Antonio Spurs, who should have got the number 2 pick, to be honest. I think the Detroit Pistons should have got Victor Wembanyama, but it's not our problem now. We got Asar Thompson, who's the number 5 pick, who's going to be an absolute stud this year. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know if he's going to win, I should say, Rookie of the Year. I think that title will belong to Victor Wembanyama. But whatever the case is, they finished 8-44 in the Eastern Conference last year. The Pistons averaged 110.3 points per game last year, 19 of them from the free throw line, and 34 points from deep. The Detroit Pistons, it's not even the start of the season yet for the 3-1-3, and we're already shorthanded, y'all. We are already shorthanded because not only Isaiah Livers is out with an ankle injury, but I just got a scoop from Kuka Hill and Locked On Pistons that we're going to be without Monty Morris and our three-point shooter Bojan Bogdanovic for at least 3 to 4 weeks. At least 3 to 4 weeks. What the hell? What the hell? The season hasn't just started, and the Detroit Pistons are already cursed. Now, mind you, I will say this in the preseason, though, the Detroit Pistons looked absolutely impressive. They looked like they got a bunch of dogs on that team. You know, they got Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham, I need you to stay healthy, my guy. I need you to stay healthy for the rest of the season, because if you could stay healthy, and be the number 1 overall pick that we got you in a couple of drafts ago, you're going to be a monster in this league. Jaden Ivey, he looks like to be a guy that's coming off the bench. We all know that Jalen Duren can dunk the ball, get easy buckets in transition. Big Stu, Isaiah Stewart, will show his muscle inside. Joe Harris, good pickup for the Detroit Pistons, the three-point sniper out of Brooklyn. This guy could shoot threes for the living hell of it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Asar Thompson's first game in the NBA. He looked really impressive during the preseason. I will say that. Asar Thompson, to me, looks like a sleeper surprise pick in the NBA draft. I think the Pistons did a really, really good job in the NBA draft. And oh, by the way, we got a new head coach. A head coach that knows how to win games. A head coach that's been to the promised land. That's been to the mountaintop and back. And Monty Williams. And I believe because of the preseason games that I've been seeing in the 3-1-3, the Detroit Pistons have a culture change. The Detroit Pistons look to be competitive. The Pistons look to be like a bunch of dogs in the 3-1-3, and you love to see it. But it is a big test. It is a big test against the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat and head coach Eric Spoelstra. So if the Pistons can just compete in this game, if the Pistons can hang in there, I think we might see an opening day upset. I think I got the Heat to win, but I want to see the Detroit Pistons just compete and hang in there. I know Jaden Ivey is going to get his buckets. I know Asar Thompson is going to get his buckets. He might be a little bit rusty in his first game in the NBA, but I'm looking forward to seeing him perform, and I need to see Cade Cunningham just stay healthy for the remainder of the season. I have the Detroit Pistons as a play-in team this year. I don't know about a playoff team because it's the first year in the era of Monty Williams. I need to see where the Detroit Pistons go this season. But in my prediction, I could see the Detroit Pistons as a play-in team, and I could see them a 35-win basketball team. That could be a good thing in the Monty Williams era. So I got 35 wins for the Detroit Pistons, a play-in spot for the 3-1-3, but I gotta keep it real. I'm gonna be rooting for the Pistons. But as far as my prediction for tonight's game, give me the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat. I think the Miami Heat are gonna be too much for the Detroit Pistons, but the Pistons could prove me wrong. They can maybe go for another upset. But I got the Heat to win tonight. Hopefully the Pistons can just compete and stay with the Eastern Conference champions. We're going to take a quick break on Let 'Em Know Kings of the 3-1-3. When we come back, the Cleveland Cavaliers have a lot to prove this year, and their season starts in Brooklyn, New York. We're going to preview Cavs and Nets right after this. Welcome back, Let 'em Know Nation, to Let 'em Know Kings in the 313. We are previewing tonight's 3 opening night matchups for our Detroit Pistons, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Sacramento Kings. We covered the Detroit Pistons in the last segment. In the next segment of today's show, we are going to cover a team that has a lot to prove this season. It has a lot to prove, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Y'all know, the same Cleveland Cavaliers who had the number 1 defense, scoring defense in the NBA last year. The same Cleveland Cavaliers that scored 51 wins in the regular season last year. The same Cleveland Cavaliers who had Spider Donovan Mitchell drop 71 on the Chicago Bulls like nobody's business. The same Cleveland Cavaliers that got smoked, humiliated, embarrassed, and humbled by the New York Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. And believe me when I tell y'all, October 31st, Halloween in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, oh, this shit gonna be personal. This game between the Cavs and the Knicks is going to be really, really personal for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But besides all of that, the Cavaliers have a lot to prove this season. Why? I like the fact that the Cavs, during the offseason, drafted Amani Bates out of Eastern Michigan. He is a two-way player on this roster. And during the preseason, I'm not going to lie, I said Asar Thompson was a sleeper pick in the draft. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers got the steal of the draft with Amani Bates. This kid can shoot the lights out of the gym. This kid is tall. This kid is athletic. He is going to start this season with the Cleveland Charge in the G League, but I will not be surprised if JB Bickerstaff says, hey, you know what? That Amani Bates kid, get him back in here, because I love the fact that Amani Bates can defend, Amani Bates can rebound, and he can score the living hell out of the basketball. Speaking of scoring, we upgraded our shooting this year. We got Max Strus from the Miami Heat from a sign and trade, which is really, really huge because Max Strus can shoot the lights out. Georges Niang has the prettiest stroke that I have ever seen, okay? I've seen him in the preseason, and I'm like, where the hell was this three-point shooting last year? Where the hell was this three-point shooting, despite the fact that we had DG, despite the fact that we had Spider Donovan Mitchell, despite the fact that we had Evan Mobley last year, despite the fact that we had Dean Wade last year? Where the hell was this three-point shooting, man? And Georges Niang, let me tell you something. Every time he shoots the ball, I feel like he has this kind of paintbrush kind of release, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to go down. It's going to go down. And in the words of Austin Carr, I love the fact when Georges Niang, shoot it, young man. Shoot it, Georges Niang. And by the way, we also got Ty Jerome, which is a really, really good backup. Really, really good pickup, I should say, for Cleveland. He is an NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, I know. Why did we pick up a Golden State Warrior? But whatever the case may be, Ty Jerome is a leader on and off the floor, and he could really bring some depth and stability for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the reason why Cleveland has a lot to prove this season is because Donovan Mitchell, this is a prove-it year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If Cleveland can prove that they are not this first-round pony, they are not the same team as they were last year, the same team that got smoked in the first round by the New York Knicks, Donovan Mitchell can say, you know what? Let me sign an extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers and end my career, or get my prime in my career with the Cleveland Cavaliers. If the Cleveland Cavaliers do not improve this year, Donovan Mitchell might be like, fuck this shit, I'm out. He probably might be thinking, I need to go to a team that knows how to win. Maybe Miami, maybe New York, maybe somewhere in that future. And by the way, another reason why I think this is a prove-it year for the Cleveland Cavaliers, JB Bickerstaff, your job is on the line this season. I don't give a damn about who you got. I don't give a damn about you about you having 50 wins last year. I don't give a damn about you being the number one defense, scoring defense in the NBA last year. It's about this year, man. It's about this year. Prove to me that you're not complacent. Prove to me that you can actually coach. Prove to me that you can get hard on guys. You can hold the Cleveland Cavaliers accountable because Mike Brown is really, really good at holding guys accountable. I know for a fact that Monty Williams is going to hold the Detroit Pistons accountable this season. Why don't you, JB Bickerstaff, and your coaching staff learn to hold the Cleveland Cavaliers accountable? Because if you don't do that, if you have a good season, you can have another 50-win season. I got no problem with that. You can have another 50-win season. You might win. You could potentially compete for a win in the division. You're not going to win the Central Division now. You ain't going to win the Central Division because, in my opinion, Milwaukee is going to be the Central Division champions once again because they got the Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Dame Tom, Dame Dollar, Damian Lillard. The shock of the offseason for the Milwaukee Bucks. And by the way, the same reason why Giannis Antetokounmpo just signed a 3-year, $186 million extension with the Milwaukee Bucks. So Milwaukee, they ain't going to go nowhere. Okay, Milwaukee is going to be right back where they were last year. One of the contenders for an NBA title. I know they got eliminated in the first round last year, but Milwaukee got scary better with Damian Lillard. I can't really fake that. But JB Bickerstaff, if you lead us to a 50-win regular season, and if you and your complacency gets us eliminated in the first round again, I'm going to call Jordy Fernandez myself. I'm going to call the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to call Monty McNair, and I'm going to say, hey, Monty, that guy, assistant coach with Mike Brown, Jordy Fernandez, can you ship him to Cleveland and he can coach up the Cleveland Cavaliers better than JB? Because listen, JB, I understand that you are a defensive-minded coach. I understand that. I understand that you led us to the number one scoring defense in the NBA. I get all of that. But it's not about stats. It's about results. And right now, I am still mad at you for getting us eliminated in the first round of the playoffs last year. I am still mad at you that you forgot to hold the Cleveland Cavaliers accountable because the Cleveland Cavaliers got some dogs. Okay, they got some dogs. All right, they got DG, Darius Garland. You already know where he is. You already know that Donovan Mitchell going to show up and show out. Evan Mobley in his third year of the league. I expect him to have a breakout season. Jared Allen, he's one of the softest centers in the NBA right now. I'm sorry for telling everybody the truth, but Jared Allen, in my opinion, is soft. Is soft as Charmin as a center. As a person, I love the guy. I love his personality. I love his energy. His smile is infectious. There's no doubt about that. But Jared Allen, I need you to get tougher, bro. I need you to get tougher this season. I know you had an ankle injury, and he will be out for the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. But Jared Allen, this is your make or break season too, man. Because I need to see you get tougher. I need to see you prove to me that you are actually this force in the paint that I thought you were last season. And also, as a matter of fact, the Cavaliers also got Damian Jones out of Utah. That was a really good pickup in the center spot in backing up Evan Mobley. And then they also got a guy who's been an NBA champion with the Cleveland Cavaliers. A guy who has played a really big role in the resurrection of the Cleveland Cavaliers in recent years. I'm talking about Tristan Thompson, who's number 12 this year. I'm used to him wearing number 13, but whatever the case is. The Cavs, this is a prove-it year, y'all. This is a prove-it year for Cleveland, and it starts tonight in Brooklyn, New York. And the Nets, listen, Listen, I got to give Brooklyn all the credit in the world. Despite the fact that they were dealing with all this drama, all this bullshit, all this storyline with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Ben Simmons, we get all of that. But beside all of that, Brooklyn has got some talent on them. Brooklyn last year really resurrected their season. Mikal Bridges, he is a stud. Cam Johnson, I don't like the guy for reasons that I'm not going to talk about, but as a basketball player, he is an absolute stud. Nick Claxton is one of the best up-and-coming centers in the NBA, and last year, Brooklyn finished 45-37 overall, 29-22 in the Eastern Conference play, 23-18 in the Barclays Center, and the Nets averaged 113.5 points per game last year, while opponents were scoring 112.5. So virtually identical offense for Brooklyn, as well as scoring defense for Brooklyn. I expect that to change for Brooklyn this year. While we finished 51-31 overall, 34-18 in the Eastern Conference during the 2022-23 season, the Cavs averaged almost the same as Brooklyn offensively, but the defense is a big story. 107 points per game given up last year. What do I expect for Cleveland this year? Number one, I expect Cleveland shooting to be better. I mean, you're not going to get guys like Georges Niang, Max Strus, Ty Jerome, Damian Jones, and expect the shooting to decrease. I expect the three-point shooting for the Cleveland Cavaliers to be better. Not great, but I expect them to be better in the shooting regard. That's number one. Number two, I expect the defense. Now, we're going to be a little bit weak on that side of the floor because we lost Lamar Stevens, who was an absolute dog in Boston, and it is going to break my heart to see Lamar Stevens in another jersey besides the Cleveland Cavaliers. But having said all of that, I think they got anchors like Dean Wade, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell can steal. He can get some buckets for us. So I think the defense might be a slight weak spot for Cleveland. But if they continue that same energy, I think we're going to be all right on the defensive side of the ball. But I still think the Cavaliers defense is going to be a little weak this season. That is number two. And number three, I need to see us play better on the road. I need to see us play better on the road this year because the Cavaliers were almost unstoppable at home in the regular season. They couldn't do shit in the playoffs at home against the Knicks. But during the regular season, they are one of the best teams in the NBA in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. But outside of Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, the Cavaliers were up and down on the road last year. I get that winning games on the road is not easy in the NBA. I understand that. But some road wins could help the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this goes for the Pistons and the Kings as well. Some road wins in this league could help you in a long way when it comes to heading into a playoff spot. So I need to see the Cavs win more games away from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this season. I think their road record has to improve this season for Cleveland. I expect Cleveland to make it to the playoffs. I expect Cleveland to be one of the top four teams in the Eastern Conference again. But if they don't be in the top four seeds of the Eastern Conference, I expect Cleveland to be maybe a 5 at worst. 5 at worst. I don't expect 6 through 8 for Cleveland. I think Cleveland will be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference this year, but it's going to come down to a few factors. Will their shooting improve? Will their defense get better? And will they win more games outside of Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse? I expect Cleveland to go places this year. And by the way, again, this is a prove-it year. This is a prove-it year for J.B. Bickerstaff that he is the coach of the Cavaliers in the future, and this is a prove-it year for Donovan Mitchell. If we get past the first round of the playoffs, potentially, Donovan Mitchell might say, you know what? I'm going to bring my prime to the Cleveland Cavaliers. When we come back, there's one more game that we're going to preview, and that is the best offense in the NBA, the Sacramento Kings going up against a Utah Jazz team that is scrappy and talented. We're going to preview that right after this on Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. Final segment here on Let 'em Know Kings of the 313. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with me for the entire show. I really appreciate and love you guys so much. There's one more game that we need to preview tonight, and that is the number one offense in the NBA last year, the same team that has the reigning, defending, undisputed, unanimous Coach of the Year in Mike Brown, and of course I am talking about the Sacramento Kings, who basically are running it back. They have the same roster as last year. You know, the same starting five with Mr. Fourth Quarter, De'Aaron Fox, Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter, HB, Harrison Barnes, the rookie that actually is in his second year of the season, who set the rookie record for most threes in a season. And you know what I'm talking about. Keegan Murray. And of course, the big DM, Domantas Sabonis. But the Sacramento Kings got better. They got better slightly during the offseason. I mean, they definitely added JaVale McGee during the offseason because Domantas Sabonis, I need to be honest with you, my dude. I love you, but you're not big and you're not strong inside, bro. I get that you like to grab like offensive boards. I understand that. I understand that you like to grab offensive rebounds and you like to put baskets back. Put baskets back in, whether it's a layup or driving to the lane with some force and catching a couple of bodies. Shout out to Mark Jones. I am really excited to hear him again on NBC Sports California due to my NBA League Pass on Amazon Prime Video. But in picking up JaVale McGee, this guy is a guy that's been there, done that. An NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors. A former Denver Nugget, a long-time Washington Wizard. He's been there, done that. He's been the journeyman of the NBA. And I like this pickup because it provides depth in the center position. And Sacramento was one of these teams last year that did not really like stress when it comes to depth. You know, they got Malik Monk, who was a stud, Davion Mitchell, who was a stud, Trey Lyles, who was a stud. They also got a guy from the European League who was the EuroLeague MVP, and Sasha Vezenkov. Now, I will say about Sasha Vezenkov, this guy has a lot to learn. This guy has a lot to learn in the NBA because the speed of the NBA game is much quicker and much more up-tempo than the EuroLeague. But despite all of that, this guy can shoot the lights out of the gym. His three-point stroke, pure like water. I mean, not as pure as De'Aaron Fox's stroke, you know what I mean? And not as pure as Keegan Murray stroke in the offseason, you know what I mean? And Kevin Huerter, Red Velvet. Listen, Kevin Huerter, this is your redemption year, bro. This is your redemption year. I know how good you are. I know you like to struggle from deep. This is redemption year for Kevin Huerter. And the sleeper pickup for Sacramento in the offseason was getting Chris Duarte, a guy from the Indiana Pacers who can play defense and is really physical. And speaking of physicality, that's what Mike Brown and the Sacramento Kings have been working on during the off season. Because let's be honest with you. Let's be honest. As far as the offense, one of the best offenses the game has ever seen. I expect that offense to, I would say, pick up where they left off last year. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time to replicate what they did. Maybe they could not replicate what they did. Maybe they could be better than what they did last year as far as offense. I'm not worried about that side of the ball for the Sacramento Kings. What I am worried about is the defensive side of the ball needs to be better. Despite the fact that Sacramento had one of the best offenses in the NBA last year, I think we had one of the worst defenses in the NBA last year because Sacramento, at times, last season got exposed in the paint area. They allowed more baskets in the paint than anybody from what I've seen. And by the way, one of the keys to a really good season for the Sacramento Kings, which I expect the Sacramento Kings to be back in the playoffs. I expect the Sacramento Kings this year to get past the first round of the playoffs. Maybe not repeat as Pacific Division champs, but that is also not out of the question for Sacramento. But I need to see them win more games at home. And for those of you that saw the postseason game between Golden State and Sacramento in the Golden One Center, Lord have mercy, that building was rocking from the jump, and I expect Golden One Center to be an absolute madhouse Friday night, 10 p.m. on ESPN, Sacramento, Golden State, postseason rematch. Let's fucking go with that one. But Sacramento was a better team on the road last year compared to home. Now I don't know why that was. Maybe because the lights were too bright in the Golden One Center. Maybe they couldn't handle winning games at home. Maybe they were playing trap games against opponents that they were supposed to win. Teams like Minnesota, teams like San Antonio late in the season, teams like the New York Knicks, where they allowed Josh Hart to grab every damn offensive rebound that they could last season. So, in order for Sacramento to reach the next level this season, I would like to see them win more at home. I need to see them light the beam more in the Golden One Center this season. And I need to see them get better on the defensive side of the football. Defensive side of the basketball, I should say. Why am I talking football in a sports podcast? I'm a little hyped up for the NBA season, all right? But as I was saying before, Mike Brown was working on physicality and defense during training camp. I need to see Sacramento prove it, because the Utah Jazz, let me tell you something about this Utah team, all right? This Utah team is scrappy. This Utah team can compete. They got some dogs, and they got some beasts like Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, who was an absolute killer, Lauri Markkanen, among others. And then they got one of the best dunkers in the NBA today, John Collins from the ATL. If you haven't seen any of his dunks, what the hell are you waiting for, ladies and gentlemen? What the hell have you been missing? Because when John Collins gets up, if John Collins gets up on Sacramento, trust and believe he will take one of those Kings to the upper room. I will not like it as a Kings fan, but as an NBA fan, I love to see some posterized dunks, okay? But as far as the Utah Jazz, they went 37-45 last year, 24-28 in the Western Conference play, and 23-18 at home last season. They averaged 117 points per game while shooting 47% from the field and 35% from three-point range. Sacramento finished 48-34 last season, 32-20 in the Western Conference play. The reigning defending undisputed Pacific Division champions. The Kings allowed opponents to score 118 points per game last year and shoot 49% from the field last year. So the defense needs to get better for Sacramento. And I mean drastically better. I need to see this team play with more physicality. I need to see this team toughen up. I need to see the Sacramento Kings communicate. When Utah set some screens, they did not do a good job getting over or getting under each screen for Sacramento. And the defense is going to set the tone for us. If we play good defense, and for the Sacramento Kings, the offense will just take care of itself. And by the way, 48-34, bump that record. Bump that. I need to see 50 wins for the Sacramento Kings this year. They will go back to the playoffs, back-to-back years for the playoffs, and I need to see Sacramento get more physical on the defensive side of the basketball. As for tonight's predictions for these three games for the Pistons and the Heat, give me the Miami Heat over the Detroit Pistons, but despite the fact that I said that, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Detroit Pistons just compete and hang in with the Eastern Conference champion. As for the Cavs and the Nets, give me Cleveland. Give me Cleveland as 1-point favorites. I think it is going to be a really tight game, but Cleveland will have the slight edge in the end. And Sacramento and Utah, I like Utah's game when they met in the preseason, but I think Sacramento will get a win on the road. So give me Sacramento on the road against the Utah Jazz, but expect a competitive dogfight between two of the most up-and-coming teams in the Western Conference, Sacramento and Utah. If you're not excited about the NBA season starting tonight for Detroit, Cleveland, and Sacramento, check your fucking pulses, y'all. Check your fucking pulses, because NBA is back and we are all here for it. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and wherever you get this podcast on the show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode, which will drop on tomorrow, recapping opening day in the NBA and opening day for the Cavs, Pistons, and Kings, I should say, as well as maybe we might preview the home opener for Cleveland and Sacramento, and then Detroit. They got one more game on the road on Friday. We're going to probably preview that too. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give 305, Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313 a 5-star review. I'm Skylar Weisberg. Until next time, don't forget to enjoy Detroit Pistons, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Sacramento Kings basketball, and I will see you right back here for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 3-1-3.